G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Truen. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it. Welcome everyone. Today I'm interviewing Andy and Angela Smith from Lifestyle Tradie. They're based in Sydney, Australia. Thanks for your time today, guys.
Hey, buddy. How you doing?
Hey, happy to be here.
I'm very well, adequately caffeinated. Had a very early start this morning, but I've got enough coffee in my system and adrenaline.
Perfect way to start the day.
That is. Let's start with how we know each other. I think Tara on your team reached out and thought you might be a good guest to come on the podcast.
Yeah, I believe she did. Don't we love LinkedIn?
Yeah, LinkedIn. And on that, you guys have your own podcast. Do you want to give that a bit of a mention?
Absolutely. We have our own podcast called The Tradie Show Together in Trade Business. So it's specifically for trade business owners, which are like contractors globally, which are like electricians, plumbers, builders, pest control, those kind of guys.
Great. Fantastic. I'm going to have a listen to that. Tell our audience a bit about your business, what it does and how it makes money.
So we actually have had two businesses over the years. We started off with a traditional plumbing business. We're here in Sydney, as you mentioned, called Dr. Drip, and we've been running that for 21 years. And only last year, we actually sold that business, which we're really happy about. We've been obviously running it for a very long time. We didn't want to sell it, but someone just kept asking. And obviously at the end of the day, everything is for sale. And we also have another business called Lifestyle Tradie, and we help trade business owners all around Australia and around the world learn how to set their business up the right way, get the business model right, make more money, obviously, but hence the name Lifestyle Tradie, have the lifestyle they really want. And as Ange mentioned earlier, if you're overseas, a lot of people might call yourselves a contractor. So it's the same thing.
Yep. Great. And anything else on your backstory there of how you started out? So 24 years ago, you got into plumbing.
Yeah, so we got into plumbing, did it the hard way as always, just sort of jumped in a van, got on the tools, and just went hard. And we grew that business quite quickly. And we ended up being a business of 17, and we had 8 trucks on the road, and we were making really good money and life was great. But it was very old school back then, where it was all paperwork and it actually just got out of control. So we went from making like 50K months, which is huge, to losing 50K months. So we completely turned that business around. We structured, we systemized, we learnt off mentors and a lot of education along the way. And then we turned that around in around about 13 or 14 months. And then the last 10 years of Dr. Drip, before we sold it, I was only working really less than 2 hours a week in that business because of how well we'd set it up. And that was the catalyst, really, where a mentor of ours reached out and said, hey, you've done it in your business. There's millions of tradies and contractors around the world that need this help as well. And I looked at Ange and thought, you know what? We don't want other people going through the heartache that Ange and I went through when it was really bad. It was bad, and that's how Lifestyle Tradie was born.
I think the interesting thing here, Troy, is, as you can imagine, as a trade business owner, most of these, when I say guys, I know that's a bit generic. There's obviously a lot of females that do trade as well, like electricians or plumbers or whatever. They go to TAFE and they learn the rules and regulations, but they just don't get taught business principles. That's right. Yet 99% of them would actually put their hand up to say their intention is to own their own business. So there is somewhat of a failure in the system in that sense. So Definitely. When they go out and try and, make a living and be profitable, where they want to make money and have control and basically have a lifestyle, it's in actual fact, it ends up being quite the opposite, which was our example, our true life story of what we lived, to then go, oh my God, this is ridiculous. How do we turn this around? This is killing us.
That's fantastic, guys. Congratulations, firstly, on the turnaround, going through the shitty times, but recognizing that and working through it in those 13 months, but also then, leaning on your mentor to come up with the Lifestyle Tradie online business. I think that's a fantastic idea.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't know that story. And the interesting thing was, his name was Chen Tay, and he was living up in Ballina and still is. And he asked Ange and I to fly up there and see him. And he said, "Come up for the day." And he said, "It's going to cost you, I think it was $6,000 or $7,000." Now, 14 years ago, $6,000 or $7,000 for a day was a lot of money, but I had the trust in him and I thought, what is going on here? So we paid the money, we flew up there, and Lifestyle Tradie was born. So I think the moral of this story is sometimes you've got to pay to get the advice you need to really propel you to the future.
Yeah. And what year did you start Lifestyle Tradie up, and what ages roughly for the audience?
2009 we began, so 13 years ago.
Great. How old were you when you started Lifestyle Tradie?
Andy and I were both 35.
Great. Fantastic. Do you have some key numbers you can share to illustrate the growth of the business? You mentioned Dr. Drip. You got to 17 team members, and I assume, Andy, was that just you started out on your own?
Yeah, started out on my own and in the van, and got out there, and we were lucky enough. I actually had some good employees that helped along the way, and we got some good contacts. And that's how the business grew. But we did the typical scenario of we grew way too fast. So we had a period, yes, when we were making really good money, but then we had a period where we weren't, as we mentioned, and but we were a multi-million-dollar business, and it was going great, but when we realized, when we hit that bad point, there was so much dollars in our P&L that just didn't need to be there. And when I actually pulled my head out of the sand and actually went, what the fuck is going on here? We sort of shaved roughly $300,000 off the business.
Wow.
In a week, I changed things around, and it was like, oh my God, because when you got your head stuck in the sand, you just don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And I would say that most listeners out there in any business, if you aren't watching your P&Ls and going through every dollar and cent, there's a lot of savings in there that you can really pull back on.
Well, when you're not watching data in general, right? There's lots of financial data and non-financial data.
Yep.
So depending on your business, you just need to understand what that critical information is and really keep an eye on it, which is, back then, that's exactly what we weren't doing. So it was definitely one of the lessons that we had.
Love that saying, what can be measured can be managed. I do want to dive a bit into this, Ange and Andy, because my brother's a plumber in Mornington Peninsula, just out of Melbourne, as I mentioned before we hit record. And I've heard of a lot of other tradies go through what he went through. Is he had a couple of team members he employed, and he got really frustrated with, people and managing them. And in the end, decided to go back down to just being a sole trader himself. So how did you push through that hump? I know when you get to about 17 people, you've got critical mass, you've got a good group you can lean on. But did you have any of those thoughts or moments where you thought, this is too fucking hard?
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. And I believe that most people out there, if you look at our bosses and people we worked for in the past, there was a real stereotype was you can't get past 4 guys. You can't get past 4 trucks, or you can't get past $1 million, or you can't. Like, there was all these hurdles. Now, the trick with that is, the reason why everyone used to say all that kind of stuff was because they'd never built their business model right from the very start. So we work with businesses right now that are doing over 10 million, and some guys that are doing a couple of 100,000. But we all start, and we go back to helping them build their business model the right way. And because once you got your business model right, you can scale without the stress. But everyone tries to scale, including myself, when you haven't got your business set up the right way to scale. Now, when it comes to staff, there's a real thing that he's not like I am, and I get it. And as tradies, we can yell and scream and carrying on, but not all staff members are going to be the same as you. That's 100%. But it does come down to a lot of training and making sure you're doing the right things. The old saying, don't blame them, train them. A lot of people just are too impatient, they're control freaks, and they don't actually train people the right way to actually get the benefits. But one of the best things that I do these days is I'm a finger pointer, and I get people to help me, and I find the right people that can do that around me. And that's the challenge. Most tradies, it's all about them. They're the control freak. No one can do it as good as them, and they whinge and moan and complain because they haven't structured their business the right way and haven't trained their team the right way.
We actually wrote a book, Troy, called Startup, Scale Up, Sell Up, because of exactly that issue. So trade business owners do just pretty much take on, they're so desperate when they very first start their business that they just say yes to every single piece of work.
Yeah.
I remember back in the day when Andy was hungry for work that he even said yes to putting up a garden shed as a plumber. I mean, who does that? But that's what life was like.
Yeah.
So they just get so conditioned to saying yes that they grow real quick. They put on team and then systems are all in their head, and they wonder why their team are not following what they call is the processes, but all the processes are in their head. Like you can't scale a business like that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So hence the reason why even we needed that lesson to go, oh, no wonder this isn't working inside our business. We've not actually set the business model up right. So that's why it's important that regardless of any, go back to basics and teach them foundations so that they can scale correctly, so that they are profitable, and so that they can actually truthfully get them into a position where they don't have to be like on the tools or in the business at all if they choose not to.
Yeah, I think that blight of being a control freak, it's endemic, obviously not just with tradies, but small business owners in general. Totally agree.
There's a part of being a control freak that's, I believe, is still fundamental in business to start up.
Yeah.
But then you've got to learn how to let go. And Ange would probably say sometimes I'm still a control freak, but I've tried to learn to let the small things go, and I've got the team to pick up that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Now, just closing out key numbers for growth. So when you started Lifestyle Tradie, how many team members, full-time equivalents did you start with, and roughly where are you at now?
So it was Andy and I when we first started Lifestyle Tradie, whilst we were still running Dr. Drip as a business. And now we have a team of 10 here in Sydney and 4 in the Philippines.
Great. Fantastic. When was the moment you felt like you had succeeded?
Well, I suppose if you go back through the Dr. Drip path, then I really did think I succeeded when we'd put all the systems and structures in place and I only had to work 2 hours a week. The funny story with that, when that first happened, I came home one day and Ange is like, "What is wrong with you?" And I'm like, "Oh, I've just had a bad day." And she's like, "Why have you had a bad day?" And I said, "Well, I've gone into work and there's nothing for me to do and I don't know what I'm doing.
I'm bored.
I'm bored. I just didn't know." And Ange's like, "But that's what you wanted." And I said, "Yeah, but I go to the staff and ask where I can help. And they say, we don't want your help." And
we don't need you, Andy, they said.
And I'm like, oh. So after I'd got a couple of weeks after that, and I started to chill out a little bit and go, well, hang on, what is the next best thing? And that's obviously where Lifestyle Tradie came in. But I think we realized then that what a great business that we had, that we didn't have to work in it and still be very successful.
Yeah. And you got to take on that a moment when you felt like you had succeeded.
I would definitely concur with Andy that for the fact that he actually wasn't working in the business and actually had choice, that definitely was a pivotal moment for us, that we actually went, oh my God, we've worked so hard to get to this moment, because that was the goal. And then ultimately now having sold Dr. Drip last year, which, as Andy said, wasn't on the agenda, but having had that opportunity because the business was so streamlined, didn't require him, the team were incredible, and it was profitable, that we were approached. And that's when you go, oh my God, this can truthfully happen in trade business. Most trade business owners would say, the intent for me is literally just to shut the doors, and I'm not really too sure what I'm going to do with this business. But there really can be a pathway that you can actually either passively make money from this business or truthfully sell for really good money if you know how.
What does success look like to you?
I think when you look at the name Lifestyle Tradie, underneath the logo, it says, or part of the logo is the freedom to choose. And I think that's really important, because I talk to a lot of people and they love being on the tools, and some love being in the office. And so, and not everyone wants to sell their business, but having the freedom to do what you want when you want. Having money is obviously fundamental
Profit
to
is
being
important,
happy, and
yes.
it's important. It's a big part of it. But I actually think having the right lifestyle and having that freedom to choose is really important, because when you're at that level, you can think differently. You're not bogged down with the day-to-day stuff. So that's where if you can get to a point where you're away from the business and you can have that freedom, then there's so many opportunities out there. And I think, and family's obviously a big one, and travel and, you know, all that kind of stuff.
Number one thing you'd recommend to marketing a fast-growing business?
I would say exposure, to be honest, because you can't take on, or you can't even attract any prospects or leads if they don't know who you are. So you need to be talking to the right people through the right medium. So depending on your industry, that could be perhaps through partners, for instance, who are non-competing, who, you know, work with the same target audience as you. And I'm sure, Troy, both you and I would agree that podcasting is a great medium. But, you know, I say that, and it's only a good medium if this is where your avatar hangs out.
Yes.
If your target audience is not a listener, then don't podcast, because it's a waste of your time. So hang out where they hang out, but literally flood the market with regards to exposure. They need to know who you are.
And what about, how did you fund the business? Did you just basically Andy started and then grew it from cash flow, basically?
Yeah, exactly. We just grew it from the grounds up. We've never needed to bring anyone in or get any finances in that way. We've been lucky enough that we've been able to manage it all ourselves quite well.
Yeah, great. Well done. If you were to start up today with plenty of funding, would you go into your industry?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we love what we do at Lifestyle Tradie, being able to help, you know, trade business owners and contractors get their life back in order and actually have that freedom to choose. There is nothing better than helping someone succeed. And, you know, I've done a lot of marriage counseling with husband and wives over the times, and being able to turn them around and set them up for life. And we've just, you know, all of our members and our community that we work with, they're like best mates now. We get on that well. And I think that's the bit that I just love.
We have two huge issues that happen in our industry, which I'm sure perhaps happens in others, but organically, the she's behind a trade business owner, being the male, she organically ends up often inside a business. So, you know, they've come together romantically, and then the next minute they're faced with having to deal with decisions and dealing with each other in a work capacity, and then taking stuff home. And you compound having a newborn at home or whatever. So that making sure that partners that now are forced to work together can actually cope. And sometimes she shouldn't even be in the business. So it's kind of helping them find that journey, because the marriage is the most important thing. And then the second issue that is really, really big for us in the trade industry or construction is suicide, which is you know, obviously a very sad subject. Unfortunately, we lost one of our closest friends 12 months ago to suicide, who was in the trade industry. And it's so much so that we've now just partnered with Gotcha for Life so that we can actually help just zero suicides. Males and females are very silent when they talk about their challenges in life. Yet we know it's so important to talk to people who understand your situation. And that's where the community for us in Lifestyle Tradie is incredibly important, because even I say, even to the women there and the guys, no one truthfully understands your day-to-day struggles or challenges, your dreams, your aspirations when it comes to business, because they don't understand your life. But we do, because we're in the same industry. So lean on the people around you and ensure that you are open to chat, even about your dark days, not just about the success stories. You must talk about those failures so that you're open and have support. It's really important.
Yeah, totally. And I love what you said before about the live events that you host. You say that the partners, the romantic partners, usually husband and wife, both come along to those events. And I think you're absolutely right. That is a huge pressure point in a relationship. One, money, finances, you know, is always a hot topic, and you know, a place where a lot of issues start in relationships. But you layer it on that as well. Working together in a business is yet another trap for people to, you know, for relationships to implode. So it's great that you guys recognize that and focus on it.
It's such a male industry, Troy, steeped with stigma, that it's very masculine industry. Yet when you actually break down how a trade business functions, the he is stereotypically out in the field, customer facing, billable time, yet she runs the back end of the business, the complete admin side. She does answer phone calls, and one cannot function without the other. So it's really important that the industry shifts the thinking around the importance of who helps operate this business, because she is just as important as he. And if they truthfully took ownership of their role, they can actually be a force to be reckoned with.
Can you outline the most stressful point in your small business growth journey so our audience can learn from it?
Yeah, probably when I was at my lowest point, or even we were at our lowest point, was when I came home one day and Ange said, "I've had enough," and I was like, "What do you mean you've had enough?" She says, "I don't see you. We've got a newborn baby. You're never around. Even when you are around, you've got your phone stuck to your head. And I don't want our life to look like this." That was probably the most stressful point because, we'd built this business and the business was like my baby. And she was calling it freaking ugly, and I wasn't too happy about that. And I have to be honest and say that I let rip with some words that I'm not proud of now. But the thing was, I was working 80 hours a week. I was busting my absolute ass, and I was doing everything I could for our family. And then for her to turn around and say that, I was absolutely furious. But, after a few tears, and I woke up to myself and I realized Ange was 100% right. I'd been dipping into our home loan or to pay staff. There's all these things that were going on behind the scenes. And I realized something had to seriously change. Now, anyone that knows me goes, "Oh, you're so happy and you're so upbeat." Well, I definitely wasn't at that time, but I couldn't show my staff that. But the accountant was saying to me, things aren't good. I knew things weren't good. But it was just really hard to actually turn that around. I didn't really know where to go. So I'd sort of had my head stuck in the sand, and that is a definite no-no for all small business.
Yeah, totally. Do you want to add anything, Ange, to that?
It was just no, to be honest. It was such a stressful period of our life because we didn't know how to fix it. That was probably our biggest problem. And I think what was the fact that Andy was holding so many secrets from me was really difficult to face. And I'm so, I think we had to hit rock bottom for us to actually have a truthful reality check that you can't push this stuff under the rug. Like we actually had to, go through P&Ls and sit with our accountant and strip apart the business and actually make a plan as to how we were going to get ourselves out of this. With a team of 17, we had a responsibility, not just to ourselves to make money, but to them. And they were married and had mortgages. And, we all sit here and go, "Well, you had an option just to shut the business down." It's like, yeah, but we loved this business. The business was amazing. We just weren't sure how to fix it. So I'm pleased that Andy had the reality check he did, and that he was open to saying, "Okay, let's work this out together and let's do this."
What area in business do you feel you've had to work on the most to add the greatest value?
I think the biggest area in business is really around getting the business model right, the structure right. And once you've got it right, getting the systems and developing the processes so everyone does it the same way every single time. And also sometimes it's really important to dumb your business down. You don't have to have something that's so highly technical, because a lot of the times when you have a highly technical business, only you can do it. Or if there is someone else that can do it, they're just going to go out and do it on their own anyway. So try and keep the business. And, I looked at a lot of franchises and what they were doing, and I was thinking, hang on, sometimes simple is best.
What have you enjoyed the least about managing fast growth?
I think when you own a small business, you're consciously focused about how to make improvements all the time, which is so amazing because you create something in your head and then you can go and actually make it happen. But nothing's ever fast enough.
Never fast enough.
I want it yesterday.
It's like, why didn't that happen by 24 hours and it takes months?
Yep. What do you love most about growing a small business?
I just love the challenge, actually. I just love growing businesses, and I've got a few, and some are very successful and some I realize aren't going to be successful and I shut them down. But, we've started up and we've started up probably about 5 or 6 different businesses, and they all are okay, but they're not exactly what we want. And I think I just love the passion around it and setting up and the energy that goes into it. I really love setting up businesses.
The bonus, of course, is fast decision making. So when you own your own business and when you don't have investors and it's only you, you can create change really, really quickly.
Exactly.
Totally agree. Get shit done.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What has been the biggest mindset shift for you in your small business growth journey?
Not to be a control freak. I really do think that in small business, as I said, being a control freak is part of what we do. But when you learn to let go and you have a really good team around you to take that stress, you can actually live and work on the business more. Everyone hears that saying, and actually open your mind to all these opportunities. And there's a lot of opportunities out there, but a lot of people can't see them because they're so bogged down in their day-to-day.
When we started our journey, I suppose, on fixing Dr. Drip in those early days, the reality check of we didn't know what we were doing to fix the business. So therefore, we had to educate ourselves. And the more we've spent thousands and thousands of dollars on our own education.
I reckon we spent well over 300,000, probably over 500,000 now on education over the years.
And I think the key to this is the more we learn, the more we realize we don't know.
Yep.
So if I've got anything for the listeners, I'd be saying, don't ever stop your journey of self-development and improvement, not just on your skill set about how to manage a business or dealing with people, but how to be a better person. How can you make improvements to yourself? Because the journey never, ever ends.
The number one habit you think a small business owner needs to develop and maintain?
Educating yourself.
Yeah, I think education, but it's actually work on yourself.
Yep.
The one thing I've seen over the years, time and time again, and we all live in high pressure industries, the ones that are going to gym and the ones that are training and the ones that are looking after themselves handle the stress and the pressure better than the others. And I've been there, hit the bottle too hard, got a bit overweight, and all of a sudden your whole mindset changes to dour, and you're thinking more on a lower level, and you're not thinking the right way. And as soon as I'm not saying everyone go out there and give up the grog or do that. I'm definitely not saying that. But what I am saying, because I don't you worry, I love a drink. But what I'm saying is do the fitness, get in there. I think for the blokes, I had to get back into doing weights and just lifting heavy weights and grunting and moaning and being around the boys and doing that. And I'm doing it around 4 times a week at the moment. And it just is a pivotal point. And anyone that I've got to do something similar, or they do CrossFit, or they go to the gym, or they go on runs, they're all in a good headspace. Yep. And the ones that aren't are the ones that they're bogged down, their head's in the sand, they don't know what's up and what's down, and they're just constantly in a grind and struggling.
Find it hard to define a clear strategy, then communicate it and execute it alongside the rest of your team? Or you currently don't work a simple quarterly strategic plan to boost your team's performance? Our Business Growth Formula online course is perfect for small business owners with 5 to 30 team members wanting to grow. We share the mindsets, habits and tools to be a legendary leader in your business. growsmallbusiness.com. Can you talk to how you've added people to the team, some wins, mistakes and advice for those listening?
We've employed plenty of people over the years, especially you, Andy, with regards to Dr. Drip.
Yeah,
so
I think
you might want to answer that one.
Dr. Drip was in a fast setup mode. And I think back then it was easy to find good tradies. It's not as easy these days, but it was, and sometimes the thing that I've learned is hiring people on attitude and integrity. The ones that I've hired on attitude and integrity, not always the most skillful, but you can teach them that. But the right attitude and integrity have always been the ones that last the longest, give you the less headaches, and have always been the best for our business moving forward.
There's two things. Sorry, Ange. There's two things I look for in recruitment. Exactly what you said there, Andy. Is attitude and also aptitude. They can obviously, be taught, and that whole integrity comes under the attitude banner as well. So important. Yeah. Sorry, Ange.
I was just going to add to that just some people can lie in their interviews and kind of pull their wool over your eyes. So even though they may present perfectly, when you actually get them into your business and you're teaching them your skill set and they're pushing back, then my advice would be just don't hold on to them. So move them on quickly. Don't think you can change them because you actually can't.
Yeah, I totally agree. I've certainly held on to team members far too long. It's not a nice thing to do, but if you were, in my opinion, if you were better at recruitment, I certainly wasn't when I started, then you're going to have less of those times where you're going to have to let people go.
Yeah.
Valid.
What are some things you'd recommend to building a sustainable and kick-ass culture to help with the growth?
I think the most important thing is people want to feel valued. There's no doubt. They want to feel valued. They want to feel love. And I think a really good thing that we've done over the past is not only gave them that and dived into their personal life a bit more and caught up with family and friends and knew what was going on. And because there was one thing that's always resonated well with me. Now, tradies that work for me, there's always going to be one day where they're having a shit day. There's no doubt about it. I've had a gut full of this. Andy's a dickhead, blah, 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 right? If you've got the wife on side, she's going to go, you know what? You're in a good position. It's not him, it's you. But if the wife doesn't like you, she's going to go, yeah, I agree. You need to find another job. So I think it's really important to build the culture around family and get to know everyone. We didn't always invite the partners to the dinners. We do a mixture, but really get to know people and make sure you generally show interest in what they're doing and how you're going to help them be better in life.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of HR surveys show that pay is the fifth reason why someone works somewhere. So what you just said, feeling valued is higher than pay. So it's a very big point that I think a lot of small business owners and managers don't invest in.
Yeah.
Tell our audience how you've handled balance.
I think I mentioned a bit about balance before. For me, it's about working on yourself more and making sure you're at your best. When you're at your best, a lot of the times work is fun and exciting and opportunities. But when you're not at your best, there's nothing in your world that's good. So I think trying to handle that is good. Ange and I have really tried. I mean, in the early days, sometimes you are just doing massive hours, I have to admit, and sometimes you got to do that. But once you pass that, it's just family time, being with the kids, taking Fridays off, whatever it is. And our priority, even today, our kids are, very involved in sport. Our family comes first and the business part of it comes second. And Ange and I really work between 9 and 2:30 these days.
Great. Now, you mentioned you already have invested a shit ton in professional development. Any other comments around that?
Make sure every single one of your listeners do it.
Yeah.
Don't just say you're going to do it. You truthfully need to encircle yourself with a network so that you face-to-face see people who you can bounce ideas, with regards to business, but constantly be maybe, listening to Audible books or other podcasts and focusing on different aspects of business so that you become far more well-rounded, because setting that business model up is critical.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned your mentor that guided you into the lifestyle online business, Lifestyle Tradie. Anything else on mentors or coaches you've had along the way?
Well, we've had mentors and we've had coaches, and we've got a mastermind group that we're working with as well. And there's been some coaches we'll work with in the early days, and they didn't have a business, never had a business, and we were actually coaching them, and it was just like, are you kidding? So the first thing to point out is I believe everyone should work on their education, but find someone that's been there and done it before you and follow on their coattails. And that's why we've had thousands of successful members coming through Lifestyle Tradie, because they don't get taught anything other than what we've done. Now, there's a lot of coaches out there that haven't done jack shit, and that really annoys me, and they try and sell the dream, and they just never, ever seem to hit the point.
Yeah.
So that's one of my things. And another point on that is 40% of our members have had a coach before, and they've all said the same thing. Oh my God, if only we'd found Lifestyle Tradie earlier.
Yeah.
So I do think getting a coach, getting a mentor, someone that really has been there and done that and you can learn off is absolutely critical. Why try and reinvent the wheel yourself, pay a little bit of money, and I guarantee you your business will explode.
Do you have a board of directors or advisors?
We have a mastermind group. So
Yep.
no, we don't within our companies. No, pretty much Ange and I call the shots, which sometimes is good, but we have a very close accountant and
a general
friends
manager inside
and a
Lifestyle
general
Tradie.
manager,
So we do have a bit of a leadership team
Yep.
that we bounce ideas off and make decisions together.
Oh, great.
Yeah. And one of our mastermind groups, and we've been seeing each other for 13 years. So we always come together every month, talk about what's working and what's not, and what's everyone's opinion on it. And there's 4 of us in that group, and that's been amazing as well. Just helps us.
You're one of the few that's been on that has exited a business. If you've got any advice for the audience that are considering exiting?
Yeah. So I believe every business owner should put their hand up right now and say, I want to sell my business one day, or I want to have the opportunity to sell my business. Because if I came and gave you $1 billion tomorrow, you would all take it.
Yeah.
The biggest thing a lot of people say is, I don't want to sell my business. I want to hand it to the family. I want to give it to a friend. I wouldn't want to do that. I love this. I love what I do. You know what? When someone's got the cash there sitting in front of you, because I used to say that, when the cash is in front of you, it's like, yep, thank you very much. But you can't do that unless your business is set up the right way and structured the right way. So in my business, Dr. Drip, I hadn't worked in that business for 10 years. So when we say haven't worked, a couple of hours a week, right? So
Wow.
for 10 years. So that makes it a real saleable business. So get your business model right, scale your business to the level you want, but have it structured and systemized the right way so you can sell it and it is valuable and it's not run around you.
All right, Ange and Andy, we're on to our final 5 questions. What do you think is the hardest thing in growing a small business?
Not understanding the business model. So not understanding fundamentals of business or business principles, but when you do learn them, things will be very, very different.
Favorite business book which has helped you the most?
There have been plenty of business books that have helped me. One that sticks out is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
Yeah, that's great.
I will be honest and say it is kind of a bit of a hard read. It's, written in almost Latin to a certain degree, but the foundations, and I urge the listeners to read it because communication with people is the foundation of business. And it gives you some super basic principles that you should be applying through your entire life, not just in work, but in your personal life too.
And I had a friend of mine give me that book when I was 18, and it changed the way I did business. I communicated with friends, family. It changed. And I know I hear a lot of people say that book, and I sometimes go, geez, it's such an old book. But there was just something in that changed the way I communicated. And we all know communication is one of the biggest things. If you're good at communication, you're good in life.
One of my sayings is communication is the key to any relationship.
Yep, 100%.
Any great podcasts or online learning tools you use for your own professional development?
Clearly ours. The Tradie Show.
Yeah.
Look, there's everyone has their I guess, as I said before, try and be a little well-rounded. One I do go to is Small Business Big Marketing by Tim Reed. He does some really good stuff from a marketing perspective.
Yeah, I like Tim's podcast. Yeah,
I like it because it's really insightful and it's quite deep with regards to what people are doing in small business today. It's really relevant.
Yeah,
I think what I don't like in podcasts, if I can say that, is I have an attention span of a pea.
Yep.
As soon as you lose me, I am gone.
Yep.
So when people start dribbling and they're not keeping to key points, that just lose me. And I know we're definitely not doing that here today. But, the trick is to, you want a podcast that just engages the audience. And if you can do that, you're on a winner.
One tool you'd recommend to help grow a small business?
Listen, I think probably, I bang on about know your numbers. And I know, Xero is a big part of that with a lot of the people we work with. And there's other accounting software, so not just Xero, but having the right accounting software platform that is up to date and you understand like you wouldn't believe. The biggest reason that small business owners fail is because they actually don't understand their numbers and the data. They just don't understand it. And they're growing their business on shaky foundations. They can't work out why they're not making money. They don't know what's going on, and they just got no idea about the numbers and their data.
My tool suggestion would be literally a coach.
Yes.
Back to Andy's point of, in your industry, someone that's been there and done that before, because them as a tool will supersede pretty much everything.
Are you calling me a tool?
No. Maybe.
Yeah, fair enough.
Final and my favorite questions. What would you tell yourself on day one of starting out? And it'd be great if you both answered that one.
Yeah, I'll start with, it's going to be a rocky road, but just keep picking yourself up off the canvas and keep striving and charging, and you'll get out the other side and you'll live an awesome, awesome life. But you've got to put the hard yards in. At the beginning, and when you do that, you'll climb that Mount Everest, and when you're on the other side and you're rolling back down, life is so much better.
Ange?
I would respond with, especially if you work with your partner, or even if you don't, be very clear around your outcome or your goals that you're trying to strive for. So whether that's 2 years, 5-year plan, whatever that looks like, you need to understand why you work so hard, especially when you're in a startup phase. Then there needs to be a passion to why you get up every day. So have that vision and be very open with regards to communication when you're perhaps in our industry, when you're working with your partner, because you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. So you've got to be open to talk about how you're dealing with challenges at work and learn how to separate that from home so that your marriage survives.
Absolutely. Well, thanks very much for your time today, Ange and Andy. Really enjoyed the chat. I'm sure the audience will get a lot of value out of what you shared with us. Congratulations on the growth, starting there in 2009, pivoting online 13 years ago to Lifestyle Tradie, and helping a lot of tradespeople's lives and their families as well. So thank you for the work you're doing in this space.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks for having us, Troy. It's been loads of fun.
And for our audience, we'd greatly appreciate a review in iTunes or whatever platform you listen to us on. More reviews means we bubble up higher in iTunes, etc. So more business owners looking for podcast help with their growth will find us.